record. Okay, cool. So these all right, so these live sessions right now currently are through Zoom because the uh the interface with the program that the school wants us to use sometimes glitches. In the past, for my lectures, they have glitched and they did not fully record, or we couldn't really fully hear them right. And so I like to use Zoom for the live ones. But the problem though is that it's weird about Zoom. If I'm recording a lecture by myself, like there's no one participating, it's just me, I can have up to an hour. Um, when I use Zoom with students live like this, it's limited to 40 minutes. And so when when I have which is fine now, but after week three, I'm not going to be pre-recording. I don't think I plan on pre-recording most of my lectures at that point. I think we might be doing a combo of I will just do the lecture live and record it live, and if you can participate while I'm recording it live, then cool. If not, oh well. And we probably won't be doing 2 lectures a week. We'll probably just be doing 1. And which if which means that we might have to do like 2. I might have to like record 40 minutes, stop it, and then we all go to the next one. Or if I'll contact the school and see if they've hammered out some of the glitches with the program that they have set up in Blackboard, and if that is like, it's like live track, I don't know what it's called, and if it seems like that program is fixed and it's working better and there aren't glitches, then we might fully just switch over to using this other program, and so we won't even be using Zoom. But we have like I have a whole another week to figure that one out. Just letting you know in advance that after week 3, we might be moving to just 1. I'll have the recording and the live lecture all in 1. Okay. So today what we're going to do is I am going to hopefully answer questions, but I do want to go over so like I want to go over the answers to quiz 2, and I want to talk about some things that people were doing in the Samantha Irby assignment, and then give you time to ask questions. So I'm gonna put a 10-minute timer up to try to keep me on track, and we'll get through. All right, start. Okay, 10 minutes. We'll try to get through this the quiz in that amount of time. All right, I'm going to share my screen with y'all so y'all can see. Just the screen. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to go to, and at any point you want to ask a question while I'm doing this, please go ahead and do so. All right. So I'm not going over the quiz 1 MLA formatting and documentation. Most people were fine with that one for the most part, and I did give all the questions right here. Okay. I'm gonna go over the quiz 2, which is more of the application of the skills. Okay. So let's look at let's see. We'll just go to edit the test, so just so you can see it. Okay. All right, so the first one we had, all of this stuff went over, everything I went over in the PowerPoint slides. Okay, this week 1 PowerPoint. Okay, all of this, I went over all of the answers. Not the answers. I went over everything I went over in this PowerPoint is tested in quiz 1. Okay, so as I go over the answers of quiz 1, if you want to be like, well, where was that in the notes? please ask that, and I'll take you straight there just so we can see it. All right. I don't want anybody to think that we are rolling anything over you. Okay. Now there are a few questions though that do pertain also though to the stuff you needed to know for quiz 1. So some of the skills that were listed, the questions that were listed on the quiz 1 study guide, some of those are also assessed here as well. Okay. So like for the first one, which of the following sentences is correct? This one dealt with punctuating, punctuating titles. And so here we have Kristen Rapinoe's short story, comma, cat person, with the comma inside of the quotation mark. Follows Margot, a young college student who begins a romantic relationship with an older man named Robert. Okay. Notice this one right here does not have the short story in quotation marks. This one has it in italics, which is for titles of books, novels, magazines. And this one has it in quotation marks and in italics. And so this is the only one that is correct. And many people made the same mistake in the Samantha Irby assignment as well. Many of y'all wrote the title of her essay. Some people wrote it in italics and quotation marks. Some people wrote the title of the essays in italics. Okay. So this is the correct one right here. Which of the following citations is correct? All right. So this goes back to the same thing also that I was discussing. All right. So here we have the citations. All right. And we have this one is the last name then the first name. This is the first name and then the last name. So B should automatically be gotten rid of because as in MLA formatting, the first name goes second when we write citations. So that one's just automatically gone. Okay. So then it's between this one, and this one. Well, then the problem with D is that cat person is not in quotation marks as it should be. Okay. So D's out, B's out. And then we have A or C. They both have cat person written correctly. But then this one does not have the title of the book in italics. This one does have the title of the book in italics. So this one is correct. So C is the correct answer. Again, this goes back to titles. Okay, titles. 3, which of the following citations is correct? This goes back to the quiz 1 information needing to know of MLA formatting. And here we don't have an author. We have no author. Okay. And so per MLA formatting, if there is no author, then you just leave it blank and you begin with the title of either the article, if it's an article, or the title of the book. But in this case, it's an article from this publication. So we have quotation mark, hedonism, quotation mark, and then Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. Okay. Are there any errors? What are the errors in this setup? So I discussed in the lecture about how you cannot have additional spaces between your paragraphs, between the parts of your essay. So the title and this first line, there's too much space here. There's more space here than there is between the sentences. And there's more space between these two paragraphs than there are between the lines. So that's the error. The spaces after the title and the first paragraph are too thick. They're too thick. Is the following sentence written correctly? Karl Marx spent his life discussing how capital is dead labor, which vampire-like lives only by sucking living labor and lives the more labor it sucks, blah, 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 blah. Marx, period. And so as discussed in lecture 1, the PowerPoint 1, at a brain fart, discuss how if you mention the author's name in the lead-in sentence, then you don't put their name in the parenthetical citation. Okay. And so here we have Karl Marx's name mentioned in this sentence. And so we do not put Marx's name in the parenthetical citation. So here we have no, because it doesn't need a parenthetical citation since the author has already been mentioned. 6, is this quote integrated correctly? According to Freud, comma, quotation mark, the interpretation of dreams is the royal road of knowledge of the unconscious, activities in the mind, quotation mark, and the iceberg analogy effectively illustrates this concept. Is it integrated correctly? Well, it is, because if I deleted the quote, would there still be evidence of the quote needing to be there? According to Freud, and the iceberg analogy effectively illustrates this concept. Well, yeah, if I took the quote out, the sentence does not make any sense. Therefore, it is integrated correctly. Is this quote integrated correctly? A successful adaptation in film is keeping to the heart of the original story, emphasizing the best features of the literary work and not changing anything fundamental to the original story. Now, the problem with this, which many people did get this one wrong, and many people did this kind of thing in the Samantha Irby assignment. I want to, let me find it in this, the punctuating your quotes. Okay, so look, when introducing a quote after a verb, there needs to be a comma after the verb and then a capital letter of the first word in the quote. When introducing a quote with a non-verb, then there should not be a comma after the non-verb, and the first letter of the word in the quote should not be capitalized. All right. So this I know it's kind of hard to see. I'm so sorry. This question is pertaining to that slide. Here we have a quote being integrated, but it's not coming after a verb with a comma. All right. And so because there's no comma right here, this first word of this first letter of the quote should not be capitalized. But up here, though, according to Freud, we have this comma. We have a comma. Then the first letter of the quote should be capitalized. All right. There's no comma, so therefore it should be lowercase. So that's why it is not integrated correctly. That would be an error in your essays and in your other assignments. Again, these are not Bayer's rules. Like I didn't make this stuff up. Okay, this is universal MLA formatting. Oh my god! Oh, that's my timer. I was like, what the hell is that? All right, let me turn that off. Hold on. Okay, thank you. Let's see. All right. That was obnoxious. All right, I'll real fast. Last two. Is this quote integrated correctly? In the book, Writing Commons, the author, Angelo Edward, blah, blah, states that Marxist criticism thus emphasizes class, socioeconomic power, blah, 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 page 5 period. Says yes, okay, there's no comma here. Plus, even if there was a comma, and this Marxist criticism will still be capitalized because it's a proper noun. And then here, in this quote, is this quote integrated correctly? The gliders are exploited to their labor as they are tasked with navigating the maze, period. Quotation mark. Thus, it is continued by the explanation that conflict occurs in this novel because the oppressor believes that this experiment is worth a sacrifice to preserve humanity. All right. Somebody who is listening, can somebody tell me what is wrong with this? Why this is not integrated correctly? Can y'all hear me? Can I hear you?
Yeah,
What's
we
that?
can hear you.
Okay.
So
Does
we
any-
can hear you.
okay, cool. Does anybody want to answer this question? What makes this incorrect?
There's no page number.
Okay, well, maybe there's no page number. All right, that's sure, that's an error. What else?
It's because the quote is in a separate sentence.
Yes, the quote is not integrated. This is a drop quote. This quote is not integrated into this sentence. We have a period, and then we have a quotation mark, and we have the whole quote, and then the citation and period. It's not integrated. This is incorrect. This is not at all integrated. It does not reflect what we discussed all in week 1 about putting quotes into sentences. Which brings us to the Samantha Irby assignment. Does anybody have any questions about these 10 questions about this quiz? Okay. So some errors that I saw in the Samantha Irby assignment. And if this is any of y'all's, I don't know who it is. I immediately ignored the first names and last names, and I just replaced. So if this is yours, sorry, I'm not trying to embarrass you. No one will know it's yours because no one in this class is Bryce Harper. I made that name up. Okay. So I'm just using real life examples to help teach some stuff, to reinforce some things. All right. So with this one, immediately we should see that like the formatting is wrong. There's way too much space in this whole essay. If I select all and I go up to paragraph, look, it's going to say 0 here. Great. But then this says auto. It shouldn't say auto. This should be 0. And this says double. So let's say okay. All right. And now it shrinks it. Boom. Good. So there's that. All right. This is good. The title of the book is in italics, as it should be. The title of the article is in quotation marks. Okay. All right. And then here, though, here's a problem. This quote, this is a drop quote. It is not integrated. Actually, there's multiple errors here. First off, it's not integrated. If I deleted this, there would be no evidence that it was there. The essay continues by mentioning a past event, blah, 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 blah. There's no evidence that it's there, okay? It's not integrated. You cannot have a quote that's by itself. It has to be integrated, just like what I went over in the lecture. Right here, we have a period. We have a period when there shouldn't. We have a parenthetical citation. The period is supposed to go on the outside of the parenthetical citation. So that's 2 errors right there. If that was done in an essay, 10 points off already. 1 point for each error. So this quote needs to be integrated. Here, again, right here. Same exact errors being made. Quote, not integrated. We have a period, and then we have a quotation, and it goes all the way to the end. And again, the period is not where it's supposed to be. Here. So there is 20 points off. Okay. And then, I mean, it's the same thing over and over again. These are literally drop quotes. And that's what we mean by drop quotes. It's like originally they weren't even there. They weren't even there. It was like they wrote the essay or the paper, and then like, oh yeah, I gotta put some quotes in. So they just dropped 3 quotes into it after it was already written, and that is failing. That is not at all what you should be doing. That is not integrating the quotes into a sentence at all. So like, for example, here, we look at this one, okay? Samantha Irby perfectly captures her complete confusion over the entire homeowner expectations when she claims There's a lot of basic shit I absolutely do not know as I uncomfortably masquerade through life in the body of a human adult. Page 131. If I deleted this quote right here, oops, then there would be evidence. A, the sentence would not make sense, and there would be evidence that it was supposed to be there. Samantha Irby perfectly captures her complete confusion over the entire homeowner expectations when she claims what? What does she claim? See, it's obvious that something was there. So that means it is integrated. If the sentence is incomplete without it, if it clearly we can tell something is missing, then that means the quote is integrated. Same thing here. One particular topic that I agree with is when Samantha Irby points out, I learned nothing about running a grown-up home, blah, 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 blah. Okay, that quote is integrated. We look at this one by Emerson Palmer, not the actual person's name, just so you know. Here we have an error. We have love and marriage, titled of the essay, and this period's an error. This period should be inside the quotation mark. Right here. Okay, sure, this quote ends with a period, but it's not the end of the whole sentence, because this is the whole sentence. So you don't include the end punctuation of a quote unless it's a question mark or an exclamation point. And you just say it for here. Also, listen, Samantha Irby doesn't quote herself. To quote means you pulled it from someone else. Samantha Irby writes, she exclaims, she says, but she doesn't quote herself unless Samantha Irby is quoting somebody else. Okay, so let's not use quotes. The actual word quotes in your essay or your work. Okay. All right. Some of the questions that were asked came from what seems to be someone that is struggling. It seems I will never meet my Mr. Right. Every person I am attracted to is either in a relationship or doesn't like me. When is it okay to just settle? Now, see, this quote right here is not integrated correctly. Okay, this right here is the ending of a complete sentence. And then we have a quote that's in a complete sentence. All right. You cannot join two complete sentences with just a comma. Again, and we know that this is not integrated correctly because if I delete this quote, the sentence still makes sense. Some of the questions that were asked came from what seems to be someone that is struggling. That's it. That's a complete sentence. So this quote that's on the back end is not integrated correctly because once I delete it, there's no evidence that it was there because the previous sentence or phrase makes total sense. Okay, so you cannot integrate a quote this way. You cannot write a complete sentence and then just have a comma and lead into the quote. All right. Here's an error because you don't have a period there. This is an error because the commas go inside of quotation marks. All right, which I mean, I did go over up here. Okay. Oops. Commas go inside of quotation marks. That's, that's it. All right. I think those are the only real examples. I mean, this one right here, that this one has tons of errors in it. It's not. Oh, I know. Okay, I got it. My meeting in 10 minutes. This is look. I select all. I go here. Before 12 point, after 8 point, line spacing multiple. What? All of this is wrong. Like every single part about this is wrong. 0, 0, double. Okay, there you go. And then this is an error because it's not written correctly. And then this quote right here is not integrated correctly. We don't have a comma in parenthetical citations. All right. And then also, Samantha Irby is not a he. She is not a guy. Okay. So, like, that's wrong. He saw how easily the little kids talk to each other when they have never met one another. Okay. That's a complete sentence. So, this is not integrated correctly. All right. And then also, what many people did as well that I have not brought up yet is literary present. If you recall from the PowerPoint, I discussed literary present, and right here, everything's happening in the moment in the piece, so it should be present tense. A lot of people did this correctly. A lot of people wrote in present tense, but here though, he waved at Emily to get her attention as her family was dressed up as the family from Bob's Burgers. As they were making small talk, her kids were ready to leave. He told her, this should all be present. Literary presence. Literary presence. Okay. This right here. It's not integrated. All right. All right. So I've gone over enough. Those are some errors that I saw. These are all things that would be like 5 points off. If you made an error, you got 5 points off for each error. Okay. So these are things that we need to be more conscious of and make sure that we are not making these same errors twice. We have 7 minutes left. For anyone who is here, does anyone have a question or something you want me to go over one more time? Or you have a question about this week's work? Is that a no?
Yeah, I don't have anything.
Okay. All right. Does everybody understand what we're doing for the annotated bibliography? Okay. All right. Well, I hope that this didn't feel rushed. These are errors that
I do have a question about
fantastic.
something.
Okay.
You mentioned that you can't use like a quotation mark or something.
Can't use what?
I think it was a quotation mark unless if it's a question mark or an exclamation mark.
Yes. Yeah. So, okay. So, sometimes you can include like if a question is asked, like this right here. Okay. So including this question mark. Okay. Would is you would keep. Now for this though, I would change this punctuation. I would say, and wow, no thank you. Are you familiar with my work? Talks about, okay, how a guy, I would include like this right here. Using this quotation mark in it is fine because it's not really serving as, you're not asking an actual question as part of the title. All right. And so if I were to write something like, I would say something like, Irby found herself incredibly embarrassed about assuming she had fans in her by asking a waiter, are you familiar with my work? Okay. So that is, you can include that type of punctuation. You would just have you'd have the question mark, quotation, citation, period. Okay. That's fine. A question mark or that, because those things are communicating tone, And communicating tone is not signifying an end to the sentence. So those are accepted. But even if the quote ended with a comma, you would not have the comma because that serves no purpose. The comma isn't indicating a tone. It is solely for a punctuation purpose, which is not needed because you have this, because you're not carrying on in the sentence. There's nothing else that comes afterwards. You can have a comma at the end of a quote if what follows is something like a continuation of the story or of your sentence. Irby found herself incredibly embarrassed about assuming she had fans by asking a waiter, "Are you familiar with my work?" And quickly she realized he did not, in fact, know who she was or is. Okay. In this case, you can have a comma because you would have a comma. It's serving a grammatical function because the sentence is continuing. You have this and we often have commas in between when we're combining two complete sentences. So a comma here is fine if the sentence continues and it serves its grammatical function. If the sentence ends after the parenthetical citation, then you do not have, and I guess actually if this is a real essay, I wouldn't even be writing Irby because I've already mentioned her name. If you're ending the sentence after the quote, then delete the comma because the comma only serves grammatical purpose, but it's unnecessary here because you have a period. But again, you add a quotation mark because that gives tone. Are you familiar with my work? And exclamation point. Are you familiar with my work? And that matters. So then you can have that because that's not serving a grammatical function. It's serving understanding the tone of the phrase. Does that make sense?
Thank you. Yes.
Great. All right, we have 2 minutes. Anybody else have a question before Zoom and their capitalistic fascism kicks us off? Okay. So I'll be available for emails. I'll be available to comment. If you ever are doing something and you're just not sure if this looks right, you can email me a sample of it. You can write it, copy and paste it, put in the email, send it to me, and I can just tell you yes or no, yay or nay. All right. And give you a little bit of feedback. I'm okay with that. I'm just always going to ask you first. Like if you email me a question that I know I covered in the lecture, then I'm going to ask you, well, did you watch the lecture first? If you watch the lecture and you still have a question, then it'll be best when you email me to say like, hey, I have a follow-up to the lecture. I noticed you said this in the lecture, but I have this question though. So that way I know first that you watched the lecture and that now you have a follow-up question, and all about answering those. All righty. Well, if you don't have anything else, you can log off.
Thank you.
You're welcome.